What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassity. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, welcome back, Nightmare Success In and Out listeners. This is where you come for what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? Folks, don't forget to follow, subscribe, share, like this thing up. It helps the show. So who are we talking to today? Well, I am talking to Ameer Williams. And if you guys like a comeback story, you know those great comeback stories, I've got one. Ameer Williams was a guy. And before I get started, I don't want to forget this. I want to give a shout out to my good friend, Charlie Grady, who connected Ameer Williams and me. And for those who follow the game board at home, Charlie Grady was a guest on this show. And he is the founder of the Hall of Change and Hang Time. And Ameer Williams is one of the great aiders who were in that first Hall of Change. And he was in there for a reason. He is doing incredible things with his life. But before all that happened, he did a 5-year stint in prison. And, you know, that sometimes when that happens, people have one heck of a time getting back in to the real world, and reentry is really tough. And not to say that none of that was like everybody else being tough, but Ameer figured things out, and he has gone from prison to precinct to New Haven police sergeant. And that's something that I think is a first for this show. And it's, and not only that, he uses all of his experience of how he got his pardon, and he's helped over 500 people get their pardons and help them get a second chance, a better, stronger second chance in their life, because he found out how to do it and is doing what he's doing now because of part of what he got with the pardon. So I can't wait to get into all that, unpack all that. Before we do, I want to recognize our show sponsor, Autoplaza Direct. You know, who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots, looking for a car? Then you spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to buy a car. It's kind of like a root canal appointment. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle of getting a car. It's called Autoplaza Direct. They're your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they will go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge, the new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Autoplaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Welcome in, Ameer Williams. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. So I got to tell you, Ameer, when I was watching your testimonial that you did for the grade 8 on the Hall of Change, and there was a really cool thing that happened in that interview is you're just talking, telling your story, talking about, your life. And then this change happens, and the edit is next thing you see is you're in your police sergeant uniform, and you're talking about how you took the second thing of your life, and here you are now. And I should say that you've got a book coming out. I think it's not out yet. Am I right or wrong about that?
Not yet. I'm revising it.
It's called Velma's Son from Prison to Precinct. So I can't wait for that to come out, because I think that's going to be an absolutely incredibly interesting story. But Ameer, tell us a little bit about you. Before your nightmare happened and getting picked up and with your cousin and all those things that happened, your life wasn't one where you had a single mom, dad household. You two family household. Mom had a good job. Dad had a good job. I think your mom worked at Yale for a number of years. Your dad had a good job. Tell us a little bit about Ameer growing up.
So initially, no. In the beginning, no. My mother didn't get the job at Yale until a little later on in my life. But
okay.
Growing up, she did have the job at Yale, but initially, no. My mother was single. My biological father was abusive. My mother left him, and
Okay.
we were on assistance as far as welfare and things of that nature. And she did end up getting a job at Yale, but she still struggled. It was me and her, me and my sister. So initially the job at Yale didn't pay that well. So you know I decided to make decisions that I thought were manly and they didn't turn out too well.
Well, you said that uh, the relationship that your mom was in was abusive. How old would you have been when you would have been involved in probably seeing that type of situation in the house?
I was very young. I believe my mother left my father when I was 3 or 4 years old. But initially, my father had a good job. Worked at Pratt and Whitney, so they made the airplane parts.
Hmm.
And but he started using drugs, and once he started using drugs, he became abusive, and she left. But I have vivid images of even at 3 or 4 years old of him hitting on her and him beating on her. So she just got away from that issue, from that situation, and we moved across town to this area called Newhallville, and and well, it's a story before that too, because then it was with my stepfather. My stepfather was a good guy too, but he was an alcoholic, so it's rough.
Yeah,
so,
you had it on both
so
sides
he
of it.
was, but he was an alcoholic, but he wasn't abusive or anything. She just
Okay.
had to get from that, and then we moved to Newhallville. So
Okay.
Newhallville is a bad neighborhood, or so-called bad neighborhood in New Haven, Connecticut, and that's when me and my cousin got close together, about 12, 13 years old, and by the time we got 17, 18 years old, we started selling drugs.
So was that like a thing that was when you moved and you got into that neighborhood, you just started seeing a lot of people that you were hanging around that were in that doing and being in that life, and you saw that as something that could be a way to get money,
Uh,
or was it a lifestyle?
it wasn't. It was. I initially in high school, I was a. I was always considered a smart kid, so I
I
always got
saw
good
that
grades.
you got good grades in the school. Yeah.
Yeah, always got good grades. So, um, it really didn't come to until after high school. So my mother got me through about 17 years old, 17 and a half years old. That's when I started selling drugs. And it sounds innocent, it sounds stupid. I'm not trying to put the blame on him, but my cousin was on the bracelet. He got arrested and he had to be in the house at 6 p.m. So when he had to
Okay.
be in the house at 6 p.m., he was like, "Can you do this for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't care." Started doing it with him, and then it turned into me being his partner, and then we just blew up from there, grew up from there.
How long did you do that? And we're in the drug world and trade until you got hit.
So probably about 3 or 4 years. About 17, 18 to right before I turned 22. So I got arrested. I caught two cases back to back, April of '99 and then um, July of '99. And so I was 21 years old, about to turn 21 years old. Or was it 22? It was 21 or 22.
And then how did that happen?
22. I was
Was
about to turn 22 years old.
how did the arrest happen? Were you taken by
So
surprise, or was it you knew this was going down, or how did
no,
it come about?
it happened. It happened. It was out of the ordinary. It wasn't like I was on an investigation or anything. My cousin was already in prison. And I was running around selling drugs. And the first case I caught, I actually got accused. I drove by this guy on my motorcycle, and he happened right after I drove by him. He happened to get shot. So the person who called 911 described me as the shooter.
Mm,
So I ended up getting pulled over by the police. And
okay.
when they pulled me over, I had drugs on me. So that was the first case I caught as far as drugs. The second case I caught was uh, I gave my uncle a ride again on the motorcycle. I dropped him off and I stopped. And when I stopped, the police got behind me, and he got behind me. I jumped off the bike and ran, and they stick the K9 on me, and I had drugs on me then too. So that's how I caught my two drug cases as far as when I got my time. So I never was under investigation or anything like that. It just a
It
happenstance.
happened to be happened right, wrong place, wrong time, and thank goodness she didn't get charged or accused of the shooting
No,
that happened on the first go, because a lot of
no,
people. that I've interviewed have had that happen where they've been wrongly accused and serve a lot of time on the wrong charge.
No, I had nothing to do with the shooting at all. I don't even know the guy that got shot or the person that did the shooting. So I had nothing to do with that.
So Amir, you get picked up. Do you how much time goes by between you being arrested to did you do a plea deal or did you go to trial?
Not the plea deal. I wasn't going to trial. I got caught dead to rights. Especially the second time. I had so much drugs on me. So I took a plea deal. It was 15 years suspended after 5 with 3 years probation.
Okay. So you go in and you're 22 years old
22. Just turned 22.
and you head into prison, which
Mm-hmm.
is an unknown world, even if you've heard about it from other people who've been in it. How did you, what were you thinking when you were going into prison?
So when I went to prison, I actually bonded out on both cases. When I bonded out on the second case, it was July. I remember this date, July 22nd, 1999. I went to court, and my lawyer's like, they're gonna revoke your bond, and I'm like, what? They're gonna revoke your bond? They think you're a flight risk, and so that's what ended up happening. So I got out of prison. I bonded out, and then when I went back to court, they revoked my bond. So I wasn't even prepared to go. They just took me.
Okay. You just all of
So
a sudden were there.
yeah, I was just all just there.
Not a lot of preparation to that.
Not at all. So I wasn't prepared at all when I went in, and so it was a new world. It's terrible in there. That was my first time getting in any type of real trouble. My first time being away from home. My first time anything. It was not to say I wasn't. There was a lot of people in there I knew because I sold drugs, so I knew a lot of people on the streets. But I didn't know how to cope with or deal with going to prison at all. So it was
And your mom, how did that all work with your mom? Did she know that you were dealing in drugs? Was it a surprise when you went and got into this mess?
I never had that conversation with her, but I believe she knew. To this day, I never had that conversation with her, but I believe she knew because I wasn't working. Yeah, I did what I wanted to do. I went where I wanted to go. If she
Yeah.
needed help or anything, I helped her. I did things for the house, so I didn't have a job. So I think she turned a blind eye,
Yeah.
and that's just that.
Walk us
And
into
she,
prison. How did you at a 22 year age of 22 walk into prison in this world that you hadn't been in?
I walked in like a baby, crying. So uh, people are scared to say this, but I tell everybody this story. The first night I was in there, I had tears coming to my eyes. The food was terrible. I was in a 10-man cube. I wasn't even in a cell, so I was in a 10-man cube. It was called S Block in Welly Avenue Correctional Center. S Block, the starting block. So put me in a 10-man cube. I was on a bunk. I remember breakfast was 2 boiled eggs and toast, and I just wanted to go. But so like I said, like your story says, a nightmare. Something that I'd never want to experience again. Hopefully, never have to.
Yeah, I know. I think it is that first night. I think for everybody, for me, we went through my family. We went through a 6 year investigation, and so it was just fight. You get up fighting, you go to bed fighting, and for 6 years, fighting a case. And I remember that night when I was on the top bunk and I was looking up, and Leavenworth, the penitentiary was all lit up, and I was thinking, "Wow, I'm here." After 6 years of all this, I'm on the top bunk, A2, and wow, what am I going to do? This is, for me, it was like the first, like, just huge realization that I wasn't here for like a week or, a month or a year. I had a 5 year sentence. So I really had to kind of come to grips with myself that I had to do something or feel something that would make me feel more like myself than I was always afraid of falling into the prison world. Like I was going to turn into prison, Brent. When you were in that situation and you're in that thing, that the pod deal, did you have any strategies of what you thought you were going to do or how you were going to do your time?
No, because I didn't know how much time I was getting. I didn't. So when I started, like I said, I just got thrown in there, and I was still going to court for both cases, and so I didn't know what the plea offer was or what anything was initially. I just was hoping that I still had hopes of them reducing my bond. I didn't have the money. I wasn't out there making any more money, so I didn't have the money like that. And I try not to ever put anything on my mother or anybody like that out there. So, and my cousin was already in prison. So I didn't have a clue to what was going on. I was, like I said, it was like a newborn baby. It's like me walking into a new world and listening to people. And, you got the jailhouse lawyers, they know everything, but they don't know shit. But
Right. That's right. That's so true.
And so I was just going day by day with a question mark. So I didn't know what was going on. But
how long was it, Ameer, until you found out that you were going to get the 15 years and then the 5 years that you were going to be doing, that you're going to be doing 5 years and doing your time that way? How long was that time period from that night to when you actually found out what your real deal was?
So I initially didn't want to go to trial, so I never figured the conversation I had with my grandfather. I got on the phone with him, and he was a guy from old down south guy, country guy.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know too much about court, but he grew up in a rough time, Jim Crow and all that stuff. So he said to me, he said, "What you gonna do?" I said, "Grandpa, I'm thinking about going to trial," because the way they found the drugs on me, especially the second time, it was definitely a legal stop. But he said, "Just do me one favor," and I said, "What's up, Grandpa?" He said, "Don't go to court." And by that meant he meant don't go to trial. And he said, "Don't go to court. Just take what they're gonna give you." And I never forget that conversation. And so it probably was about 7 or 8 months before they offered me the 15 spin after 5. Initially, it was more time. I forgot exactly what the offer was, but I didn't take that. And that's when they offered the 15 after 5. And so,
we'll explain that to the people down in the Cayman Islands that are listening. If you the 15 to 5 means that you do the 5, but if you get out, you get to do the whole rest of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you mess up. So that was a final offer. I thought I had a pretty good lawyer, but to this day, even though I do what I do as far as my profession, I don't have too much faith in the system when it comes to when they sentence people. But I took it. He told me that was the best offer he could get for me. I took the offer, and then I remember that day too. I walked in court. He said they're gonna give you the 15 after 5. Just take the deal, and then you go from there. And I had to do 85% because even though it was a drug charge, the officer lied and said I hit him because I got bit up by the K9. The K9 bit me up. He lied and said I hit him. So I got assault on a police officer. That made it a violent crime.
So you did 85%. Yeah, and I remember there was a time, and I was watching your testimonial, there was a time in that time period that you were in that you were like, man, I don't want to be here anymore. I got to figure out something different. This isn't good.
No, not at all. It was just being away from my family. I had 2 kids at home. My son was 3 years old when I went to prison. My son was 3.5, almost 4. My daughter wasn't born by 2 different women. She was still in her mother's stomach cooking. So I missed her birth. I missed almost 5 years of my son's life. So, it was a terrible time for me.
So when you decided that you were going to not have that happen, everybody gets close to the door. You got 6 months or 4 months to go. What were you thinking when you were thinking about freedom?
I actually thought I was going to have to do the whole 4.5 years before I got parole. So I have it's weird. I have a younger cousin. He was always in trouble way before me, even though he's 2 years younger than me. He was always in trouble from the time he was a teenager. He's not in trouble anymore. It's another cousin, not the one that's doing the right. I got another cousin. So he used my name. The story will connect in a second. He used my name one time. Ameer Williams. My birthday. I don't care. My birthday is one of the simplest birthdays ever. 7/7/77. So he used my birthday. He got arrested in the New Haven Police Department. He used my birthday. Back in that time when they arrested you, you carried that name until you finished your sentence. So he was Ameer Williams, a.k.a. his real name. But he used birthday 7/7/78. So when I was in prison coming home, I thought I still had more time because I hadn't spoken to the halfway house. I hadn't had any. My counselor didn't come talk to me, anything like that. So I come back. I used to have work release in prison. We worked at a concrete place called Quickcrete, and they paid the minimum wage. And so when we came back in one day, we had this jerk CO, Lisnowski. I think his name was Lisnowski. He was a jerk. And so I came in and he was like, Williams, when you get back there, pack all your stuff up. And I was like, for what? So I'm thinking telling me I'm going to the hole or something. Because we had illegal cable, we had all types of stuff back there. So I thought maybe if I'm on illegal cable, whatever it may be. And I'm like, for what? He said, just don't say anything to me, just pack your stuff up. And so I'm walking, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, you're going to the halfway house tomorrow. I'm like, I'm going to the halfway house? He's like, yeah. So in my head, I'm like, okay. So I'm walking to the cottage we had back there because we were in the jail. We were separated because of work release. I'm like thinking to myself, how am I going to the halfway house? I didn't speak to anybody from the halfway house, whatever it may be. So the whole night, I'm up the whole night. This is the longest night of my life. And so the next day comes, they sure come get me. Ameer Williams. I get up, like the halfway house is here to get you. Shackle me up, put me in the van, take me from Brooklyn, Connecticut. That's where I was at. Mm-hmm. Ride me back to New Haven to the Roger Sherman house. I get out. I'm like, I guess this is real. I don't know how this is possible. I never had an interview. So I go upstairs. I show them my ID. The jail ID says Ameer Williams. They take it from me. They tell me they give me my room. I go to my room. I sit down. They said, we'll come do intake or process you in a few minutes. They call me back out. They say, all right, Ameer Williams, what's going on? I said, what's your birthday? I said, 7/7/77. So he looks at the thing. He said, it's not 7/7/78? I said, no, 7/7/77. So he says, what's your father's name? I say, Benny. Benny Ellis. He says, what's your grandparents' name? So I tell him my grandfather's name, Dolly Ellis. He said, well, you got the grandparents right, but you got the father wrong. Your father's not named Willie? I said, no, that's my uncle. He said, that's your uncle? I said, yeah. He said, on here it says it's your father. So he looks further on the paper. It says, Ameer Williams, a.k.a. Willie Minor. So the director of the halfway house calls DOC. He's like, well, we got the wrong Ameer Williams here. We're supposed to have the other Ameer Williams, a.k.a. And so he tells me to go back to the room. You may have to go back to prison. We may have to switch you out. So he calls me back like 15 minutes later, and he says, you know what? Since your cousin wants to use your name, it benefited you. He's got to stay, and you're going to stay here. So that's how I got to the halfway house.
Wow, Ameer. Is that crazy? I have never heard a story like that. So that is crazy. So, I mean, they could have easily just taken you back and that's unreal. So, okay. So you had no preparation for thinking, hey, I got coming out. So how do you deal with that? You're at the halfway house. What happens next?
So nobody knew I was going to the halfway house. Cause I didn't
Not even you.
No. So that night I knew I was going, and now everybody's so happy they calling home like I'm going to the halfway house. I was like, I'm not calling because I think they messed up. So when I get to the halfway house, I call my mother and I call my older daughter's mother, and I'm like, they're like, how are you calling straight through? And I'm like, I'm in the halfway house, and they're like, you're in the halfway house. You know he's going to the halfway house? Like, no. So I told them the story. They was like, wow. So,
Ameer, how much more time would you have had?
Probably like another year and some change. It was.
Well, that's a lot when you're in prison.
Yeah, it was a lot, especially when you don't know you're going home. It was a blessing, like I said.
So you finally, everybody gets to know that you're out. Mm-hmm. You are out. You're in the halfway house. Usually, like I was leading into this question, like people start thinking 6 months out, 4 months out, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to make connections? What's reentry going to be like? That hits you all at once. You like, boom.
Yep.
So what happened? What happened to your reentry in the halfway house and stepping out into the world? What did Ameer do?
So at that time, you had to do 30 days in. You had to program, whatever program they gave you. Make sure you go to the programs, finish the programs they gave you, and then start looking for a job. And I happened to find a job at a grocery store called Expect Discounts. And I had a buddy that worked there. So they were hiring people from the halfway house. And so they hired me and I got a job there working there. And then I finished the halfway house from that. It was June of I think 2003.
Okay.
And I finished the halfway house in December. Then I got off parole the following June or July in 2004. And so I worked at the halfway house, and then I found another job from one of the guys in the halfway house. It's called Advanced Development in Manufacturing, Adam in Guilford, Connecticut that paid pretty good. It was paying $12, $13 an hour, and that was back in 2003. So I had a decent job, and I had 2 jobs. I came home to 2 jobs,
which is unusual.
Yeah.
And am I wrong on the fact that you had maybe a hiccup to where you thought you might slip back into the drug trade or the streets, and you kind of felt maybe some heat and you were like, oh my God, what am I thinking? I could serve, 10 years of this if I don't get my head on straight.
Yeah. So the job in Guilford, I ended up getting laid off from there, and then I still had to have the job at the expect discount at the grocery store, and that wasn't paying much. That was probably like $8 an hour back then, and I decided to start messing around again. It was more out of desperation than anything, because I was applying for jobs, I couldn't get jobs and things of that nature. So I had a long criminal record. I had a lot of felonies from them charges, total about 13 felonies. And so I started selling drugs again. My stepbrother, he approached me. He was like, "What you want to do? I'll do everything while you go to work, while you still work at." But I ended up doing it anyway. So the first time I almost got caught again, I was going to New York. I had a buddy that had an old school car. It was a '72 Oldsmobile.
That is old school.
And he used to always take me around. It was mint, and but he had a car accident, and the headlight was out, and the driver's side front fender was bent, and we was on the way back from New York, and got the package that I wanted to go get, and we got pulled over by a state trooper, and I was so nervous and so scared because, like I said, I had the 10 years still hanging from the 15, and the state trooper actually pulled us over because he liked the car. He said it was because of the headlight, but he still liked the car. So the whole conversation, he showed him registration, insurance, his license. He's like, "I really pulled you over because I like the car." He was just talking to him about the car. My buddy bullshitted him like, "Yeah, I'm waiting for a part to come from Arizona, and it's taking a long time." He was like, "Yes." So they kind of bullshitted away through that. And then the second time, I had a lady friend that I brought with me. It was in the same car, but it wasn't. It was fixed this time. The headlight was fixed, and we were on Broadway in New York. I had just got the package again, and we're in the back seat playing, like hitting. And I never seen anything like this in my life. It was like I'm looking in the back window. There's a Durango behind us. He takes a magnetic siren and puts it on top of his car. Like I see him put it on top of the car. He pulls us over. When he pulls us over, all 4 of the cops get out. They go to all 4 doors, and they got their weapons drawn. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? He's like, I don't know if I could curse up. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
So I'm like, what the hell is going on? And they're like, "What are you doing in the back seat?" It's like, "You're having a domestic." I'm like, "What's going on?" Like, I know we're playing or whatever it may be. So license registration, showing license registration. At the time, Connecticut had the handwritten insurance cards. They used to do the handwritten insurance card sometimes. So he gave it to the guy from New York. He said, "This is a bullshit insurance card." Then he asked us where we were from. My friend happened to be from Woodbridge, Connecticut, which is outside of New Haven, a nice little town. And he asked me where I was from. I said Hamden instead of New Haven, because I know once you say New Haven, they go crazy. Say certain cities from Connecticut, Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, they know those. And then she was visiting. She was actually from Connecticut, but she was going to school in Virginia, at Virginia State, and she was visiting from there, so she showed them that. So we got away with that one. So I said the stories backwards, but the one on the highway was the second time. And when we got back from there, I said, "This is it. I got rid of what I had," and I said, "I'm never doing that again, because I can't afford 10 years. I got 2 kids out here now, and I won't disappoint my mother. My mama's boy to the heart, so I didn't want to disappoint her at all. So I just gave it up. I just went and I gave it up, and I started looking for work again. Started going back to school and started putting it together."
Which you got your associate's degree. I think you got a master's degree. Walk us into, Ameer, when that time period came when you started working towards these pardon ideas of getting pardons, and what that led to.
So the pardon idea actually came when I was going to court and I had a case in Hammond, which went to Meriden Court. So in Meriden Court, I had an older lady judge, and when I got sentenced, because that's where I got the 15. New Haven Court was more lenient on me than Meriden Court.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got sentenced in Meriden Court, she gave me 15 split after 5, and she ran a concurrent with New Haven. She said to me, she said, "This is a shame that she said, you're so young, you're 22 years old, or about to be 22 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and you have almost wasted your life with all these charges." She said, "The only way that you can get by this is by getting a pardon." At the time, I didn't know what a pardon was. So, but that always stuck in my head. So the whole time in prison, I always thought about a pardon, a pardon, a pardon. I did some research on it, and at the time, they weren't even giving out pardons like they're doing now. Like they're more lenient, a lot more lenient now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it started. So it started before I got to prison, and then when I got to prison, I did all the programs. I did classes and everything. I did college courses. I did every program they threw at us. I worked. I never got in trouble. I never got a ticket in prison or anything. Never went to SEG or any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so when I got home, that's what the focus was, the pardon. So I figured out how to do the pardon packet when I got home. And it was actually, it changed it 2 or 3 times since then. It was papered in, but they weren't giving them out. I actually didn't get a pardon till my 4th time I applied. So, and at the time I got my pardon, I had the longest record in Connecticut that they gave somebody a pardon to. They surpassed that now, but at that time that was the longest. I'm actually friends with the lady that gave me a pardon. She's now a family court magistrate.
Yeah.
And she was the pardon chairperson at the time. And when I got my pardon, she saw all my work. She saw the fact that I got my associate's degree, the fact that I had a bachelor's degree, and I had just got my first master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got the master's degree and she saw that on the paperwork, I actually knew everything just comes full circle with me.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with a guy that knew her. So he knew I had my pardon before I did, because at the time, now when they give you your pardon, they give you a pardon and they tell you right at the end of the hearing. Back then, you get a pardon and you had to wait like 2 months before or a month. I waited, felt like forever. So I got my pardon in 12/12/12. I didn't get the letter until the end of January. But he knew already. But when I got my pardon, he said, I talked to my friend. He said, you should be all right. So when I got it, I told him, she said, yeah, she wants to come down and meet you because she thinks you're the poster boy of people that went to prison and changed their life around. All the things that you did with the school, the education, getting custody of my daughter, and things of that nature.
Not only that, Ameer, I think that I don't want to gloss over the fact that you were turned down 3 times. And a lot of people, especially in reentry, will easily give up on something when they get turned down by a job or whatever the case might be. They might be trying to open up a bank, all these different things, and people just give up. They just say, that's it. I've got this felony. I'll never be able to do anything. I think it says a lot by the fact that you kept going back to that pardon. You kept going back and reapplying. And then you get it and you make these connections. Does that lead you into thinking, because if I remember us talking on the phone that you were at a job fair, and I'm not sure that you were actually thinking of being a police officer, but it was part of the job fair. Am I right about that? Or were you thinking about it?
So it was for the police department. So the New Haven Police Department was having a fair, Gateway Community College, which is downtown New Haven. And they came in and they had a packet, and on the packet it said something about if you received a pardon, they wouldn't hold your past against you. And so I met one of the officers there, Officer Dobson, and she was part of one of the people that was running the job fair. And I met her. I didn't make a connection with her that day, but they were just talking about becoming a cop. They wanted New Haven residents, people from New Haven, people from the city, people of color. I fit the bill, but I didn't think I fit the bill because of my long criminal record. When I look at people, when they say the police department is going to hire people that have a record, I'm thinking maybe a petty larceny, maybe something that happened when you're 18 years old, you never did it again, maybe you got caught with marijuana or something like that. Nothing like me. And believe me, I wasn't the first pick, but like I said, I made a connection with Officer Dobson, and she ended up, kind of, I ain't gonna say, she made sure I was okay. She made sure they treated me fairly. I put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how that got. I made a connection with her. They had a program at the New Haven Police Department where they trained you, where you had to run. They trained you, prepared you for the test. They prepared you for the psychological test. Prepared you for the written test, or tried to prepare you. And I ended up going all the way through. And so when I got through and it was time to start hiring, I let her know throughout the process that, listen, I got a pardon. I don't know if it's gonna fly with you guys or not. She asked me what it was. I told her what it was, and she was like, "I believe in you. I know that. I feel like you changed your life, and that you're gonna do good, that you're gonna do good things." And so she became my background investigator, and here I am.
Wow. It's quite a story, Amir, because not only did you put yourself in the position to make these connections, you did the things that were needed to be done for those people who were trying to help you, make it easier for them to help you because you were doing all the right things for them to
Mm-hmm.
say, I need to take a look at this guy. It might make me feel better if I give this guy a shot because he's doing all the right things to make this work. But the other thing, well, I'll take a break there because I want when I come back, I want to talk about what happens on the next step. What happens when a guy like Amir goes into a police department? Because there's people that say, yes, that's fantastic. And then there's guys that say, man, he doesn't belong in here. Nobody can ever change. That all it's doing is weighting us down. When we get back, I want to talk about that because I think it's an important part to add on to what we're talking about here. I want to recognize a lot of people don't like how they show up online. Many individuals think there's no hope when it comes to managing your reputation online. Well, there is hope. It's called Discoverability Company, and they can help you. Whether you're building a reputation from scratch or you're trying to repair your search results from a negative news story, Discoverability can also help you how you're portrayed on popular AI services like ChatGPT. To learn more, visit discoverability.co. They're even launching a do-it-yourself SEO option, a course for individuals who want to take on their search results on their own budget and speed. Listeners of Nightmare Success can take $100 off the DIY SEO course with coupon code Nightmare Success. And Nightmare Success is sponsored by the White Collar Support Group, the world's first support group devoted to people navigating the white collar criminal justice system. I'm a member of the White Collar Support Group, and I tell you, this is a bunch of people who help each other through the criminal justice journey for free. Whether you're just starting your journey or you've made it through to the other side, this is great space for you. You can join us on Zoom Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information, go to prisonist.org. That's prisonist.org. Start here. So, Amir, so you get through. You've got somebody who believes in you, and that is a huge thing. Now you're in, and now you're going to become a police officer. How do you walk through that world? You've walked through the prison world. Now you're walking through a police precinct. How do you prepare for that? And what are you thinking?
I didn't prepare for it at all. I didn't know what I was walking into. So my idea when I walked through the police department was that I was going to forget about my past. I got a job where I could make decent money. It wasn't even about really being a police officer. It was about just trying to be responsible and take care of my kids and being a present father, and being a present man, a consistent man. It wasn't about, oh, I'm a cop or trying to prove something to somebody. I just wanted to work, and I didn't even know what effect I was going to have on the police department. So when I walked through there, it was nothing like, um, again, like a newborn baby. I'm walking through there. I have nobody to talk. Nobody has my experience. Nobody can say, "Oh, I did this, and this is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do." I didn't have that. So I walked in. I just wanted to work overtime, make some money. It was at the time, to this day, it's still the best job I ever had, and that's what I wanted to do. So it got kind of rough while I was in field training. So an article, my cousin had just went to prison. He's still in prison now. He's down 15 on 25 Fed time.
Mm.
He's in upstate New York right now, and he had just got sentenced. He just got caught in a raid. They caught him with about 30 other people, and it was actually called the Jackson Drug Organization. And so that article came out. When he got sentenced, they interviewed me after the article, and this is right before I became a cop. They interviewed me. I became a cop in 2014. he got, well, actually 4 years later, but when I got on and my name started floating around the police department, of course, everybody wants to Google because Google never forgets.
Never
Google will always
forgets.
show
Always alive. Yeah.
Google will never forget. So that article came up, and when he got sentenced to the 25 years, I was there. And afterwards, they interviewed me. They asked me what type of person he was, and I was like, "Man, I said you may know how to be a monster." I got to know him personally. Like you can know some of the baddest people in the world personally, and to them and to you, they're not bad people.
Right.
He sold drugs. You know, in the past, I sold drugs. He wasn't a violent person, and they asked me what type of person he was. I said he's a father. My answer was he's a father. He's a son. He tries to do his best to make sure he takes care of his family. He just happened to sell drugs, and he's here. That article made it to the police department. They passed out that article around, and then I had an article that's still floating around. It's in the Hartford Current. They passed that around when I got arrested in Hamden. They passed that around, and then all the rumors and all this other stuff. Oh, he's a drug dealer. He's this. He's that. So they almost scared me away. They almost ran me away. So I didn't go to work. I didn't sign up for that. I came here to go to work. You guys want to talk about something that happened years ago? I'm not really interested in that, and I don't feel like I should have to come and deal with that. But I had some people on the police department that actually liked me and they loved me. And it was like, just don't let them run you off like that. Like your past is your past. Most of that stuff that you did was before they even got on. You know, they were young. You're older. Like became a police officer 37, 38 years old. You got guys talking about me that's in their 20s that were babies when I got in
Right.
trouble. I'm a whole different person now.
Right.
So, I just put my head down, and the next thing that happened was I'm in field training with an officer, and we're at the front desk. I got to log something in the front desk or something, evidence or something. And a guy comes down. He doesn't know who I am. Another officer comes down. And he's like, "Did you hear about this new kid, Williams?" And I'm standing right there, almost next to him. This guy, he's a former drug dealer. He's on here. He shouldn't be here and this and that. And so my FTO is pointing at me like he's right there. I see him pointing at me, trying to give him the head nod, like shut the hell up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of weighed on me. And then I had a classmate one day that went to the academy with me. I'm coming in to go to work, to go change into my uniform. And he pulls me aside. He's like, "Ameer," he said, "What's going on?" He said, "You got in trouble before?" I said, "Yeah." So where you get this from? He said, "They're passing an article around about you. I'm just letting you know." He said, I'm not passing judgment on you. I'm just letting you know what's going on." So then the stories just kept going around, going around, going around. And like I said, I was ready to go. Like people talked me out of it. And so somebody, actually a cop that was there was like, "Didn't you get a pardon?" I was like, "Yeah." She said, "You know how to do pardons?" I said, "Not so much. I did mine. And I'm trying to help my cousin with his." And she was like, "Since they running their mouth so much about you, why don't you just help people do the pardons?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that." So I ended up helping my cousin get his. He's now a fireman. And then I helped.
Yeah, we talked about him, Ameer. I'd like to talk to him. Yeah, he's a fireman.
I get him in contact with you. He's a fireman. And then I had a cousin that got killed. His mother needed a pardon. And because something happened in like 83, she was working or something, and she happened to begin welfare, hit with welfare fraud. And then she defended herself in a domestic violence. And she got her pardon. So after I got those two, I was like, you know what, maybe that's a good idea. So I started. I didn't have a name. Like you see, my thing was Mega Inc. in my shirt, Mega Inc.
Right.
Making everybody great again. Not to get confused with MAGA, but Mega, making everybody great again. So and that's when it came out. I just started helping people do pardons. And now, like I said, to this date, it's almost 700 now. That number was from 2023, but it's almost 700 people I helped with pardons. But it didn't start from then though. But it started because of the police department.
Yeah.
Being negative towards me, and I'm just like, all I'm trying to do is help people. As a police officer, what I think we should be doing, instead of just walking in people's houses telling them, "Oh, you can be better, you can do better," we should help them be better. And even though it's my side business, people look at me and they're like, "This guy went to prison. Now he's at the police. He's a police officer. He's a police sergeant, and he helps give back." And that's that. Again,
I gotta tell you, Ameer, I love that. And when Charlie Grady and I were talking about it, you've changed 700 people's lives, and those are people that probably had no idea how to ever go after a pardon. And most people don't, because they think it can never happen. And to affect that many people's lives because you know how to do it. And the other thing is that I'm curious now, you've been a police officer, you've been a police sergeant, and you didn't give into those guys that were talking the smack. What's life like now when you're in this police precinct?
So it's I have more people that like me that don't like me. Um, it's almost the same though. People have their biases, and
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
I had a sergeant. He's retired now. Sergeant Shafiq Abdul-Sabbar. He pulled me aside when I first got the job. He was my mentor. I only had one mentor since I've been here. He's gone. So since then, I had nobody to really teach me and tell me anything. So he pulled me aside one day. He said, I don't know if you're smart. I don't know if you're lucky. He said, but I know one thing. You got the law on your side. He said, so if the law says that you can legally and morally say that you've never been arrested, that you don't have a record, then they got to deal with it. It doesn't matter what they think or what they feel.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna tell you this: they try to make me. Some people still try to make me uncomfortable. I'm not talking bad about the department. People are people. It's like any other job. You got people that's gonna be for you, people that's gonna be against you, no matter what you do. You know, you got some people there that don't like me doing pardons.
Mhm.
They don't think that people should get pardons.
Right.
I actually had one officer tell me that another officer told her that Amir should be able to do whatever he wants to do, but become a police officer. He shouldn't be able to be a police officer. You know, that's too bad that they think like that. You know, I'm a forgiving person. They say America's the land of second chance. Even though I'm born here, why can't I have a second chance and help other people? And what I do want to say, I don't want to overtalk, but it's more than 700 people because you have to look at the people that you're helping. So if I help you, you may have kids, you may have
There's a
cousins.
multiple.
It blows up. It's squared or whatever you want to say. So I'm helping more than that because I'm helping. Because even me, like I got two older kids, they're doing great. My son's got a house. He's engaged to get married. My daughter's down south. She's married. So I raised great kids because of the fact that I changed my life and I was able to show them a little bit different and show them a little bit better. So it affects not only me, but it affects the people that are attached to me. And that's what happens. Like the people when I started walking the beat, people are like, "What the hell? How the hell did you become a cop?" And I tell them about the pardon process. Because
Yeah.
a lot of them, some of them were in prison with me, and a lot of people that I was in prison with, I helped get pardons. And so, it's a great thing, like being a part being a part of the police department, but also helping the people in the community really get back on their feet and they believe in you in a different way. You're not just there. I actually had one guy, I arrested him on a domestic. I helped him get his pardon. And he tells people that story all the time. He said, this guy arrested me when he was a rookie and he helped me get a pardon 5 years later. So, it's a blessing and it's
It
great
all
to be
comes
that.
around. Yeah.
I've helped law enforcement get pardons. Man, I've helped law enforcement relatives get pardons. I help a multitude of people get pardons. But again, some people won't respect that, and they just it is what it is.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Amir, that's life,
Yeah.
And it also kind of serves the point too, that even if you get the pardon, you still deal with the felony of people bringing something up. The thing that you have to do is, and one thing that, I guess because I'm in an unusual position, because I talk to people for the last 4 seasons on this show, is that regardless of whatever happened going to prison, your reentry is that it's a lifetime thing that you have to learn to deal with when you're out. You've got to not give up. And, I think there's we talk about this a lot on this show, but there's kind of 2 paths to go on the thing. You can pick the path of victimhood and, it was all unfair. I'll never be what I wanted to be. I'll never get to where I want to go, whatever that is, that victim mentality, or the survivor mentality of, I got to deal with it. How do I deal with it? How can I step forward? Who do I need to ask to get help to be able to get to the next step? And whatever that is, it might be hard, but I'm going to go ahead and grit my teeth through it to get to it. And I think that's, this show goes into 1,100 prisons on the Adova platform, the state prisons. And I think what's really cool about them hearing your story is that there's people out here that, yes, it's hard and you can give up and go back in, but there was something in you that decided that that wasn't what you were going to do. You decided that you had a fork in the road and I'm going to do whatever I've got to do, however hard it's going to be. I'm just going to grit it out. And you did it. I mean, you and it wasn't easy. There was nothing. It's probably today it's not easy, but everything that you're doing is making a difference. And that's, and I love talking to somebody who's around the table, who's a police officer that sees both sides of the world, because how you handle that when you are in a situation might be different than how somebody else sees a situation of what that person is or who that person is. You know, they're not like cattle. They're not a number. They're a person. What happens with that person and what happens to them next is something that can change their life for the good or the bad. But I love everything that you're doing. I think it's inspiring, and I think it goes to show people that it can be done. It can be done if you just don't stop. And each time you've talked about this on this show, you almost stopped, you know, but you got you got in the police precinct and thought, I'm not going to put up with this. I wanted to work, but you still gritted it out. That's what I love about it.
Mm-hmm. So the thing with me is, my mother always told me that no means yes somewhere else, or no.
That's right. They just
if
haven't heard enough yet.
if somebody tells you no, then it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna give up and quit. We're gonna sit here. We're gonna figure it out some way, somehow. So that's just all it is. That's what's in me. I hate the word no. I hate the word you can't do this, you can't do that, because I don't like using excuses for anything. So people use a lot of excuses for a lot of reasons. I got a record. Oh, they might be racist, or because of this, because of that.
Right.
Whatever it is, you can work through it and you can figure it out. That's how I look. And maybe I did get lucky. Maybe God blessed me, whatever it may be.
Or maybe you put yourself in the position to get lucky. You know, that's one of the things I see people who get to where they are, and somebody will say, well, he was lucky. You know, he either got lucky, inherited it, or he stole it. Well, the thing of it is that people who get to where they're at, people assume those things, and because they didn't do it. But the real thing is that you just kept stepping and gritting it and not giving into it. And that's where you get luck, because that's where you find opportunities, is when you don't stop. But I'm curious, because you've lived such a different journey. What do you think's your biggest takeaway through all of it for these guys listening in here, and women?
Again, just to never give up. Follow. I don't know if this was my dream, but follow your passion, follow your heart, and just go for what you're going to go for. Because a lot of people are going to always say, you might have the perfect resume, you might be the perfect person. Somebody might find a reason to tell you no. I just say I'm just going to figure it out. Well, if you tell me no or not, and I'm gonna stop when I want to stop, not when you want me to stop. So, this police department won't be my last stop. I'm gonna continue to do good things and just follow your passion and follow your drive. That's just that. Everything could be against you. And I'm not a religious person. As long as God is for you, that's just what it is. That's just how I look at it. So that's about it.
I love that. That's a great takeaway. I knew you'd have a great takeaway, Ameer. And if anybody, let's see, are you on? If somebody wants to get in touch with you on this pardon situation, how do they do that?
My number is all over this state and multiple states. I've helped people in different states that have never met me, but they have received my number, whether it's online. My number is 203-500-3428. If you want to get in contact with me about a pardon in Connecticut, Virginia, I help seal records in New York. And it's
mega, right?
Mega, making everybody great again.
Making everybody great again. I love it.
Pardons. I do federal pardons too. So that's just that.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it, Ameer. Talking about gratitude, I want to thank Homestead Financial Home Mortgage, letting me use this podcast room and all the fancy stuff in here. If you've got home mortgage needs, Greg Afteev is your guy. He knows it all. If you're looking for a book out there, I've got one before Ameer's comes out, Nightmare Success. Check it out at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. If you want to know anything about me, go to BrentCassity.com. I spell it wrong. I spell it with a T-Y, not a D-Y. And as I used to say to my people when I was writing my emails back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Ameer Williams, thank you so much, man. Love your story. Nightmare Success, in and out.